Janitor accidentally soiled the man's shoes during his meal. The man angrily threw the lottery ticket he had just bought at him. He picked up the ticket and discovered it had won a $1 billion jackpot. So he immediately went to the lottery shop to redeem the prize. The owner, seeing that he was a janitor, assumed he had only won a few $100s, but at the moment he saw the winning information, the owner shouted in astonishment that it was a $1 billion win. The man hurriedly snatched the ticket back from the owner's hand, thinking that with the money he could buy a house for his son. Afterwards, he brought local specialties to visit his newly married son. When his daughter-in-law opened the door, she mistook him for a beggar collecting scraps. The man hurriedly told her that he was her father-in-law. He had intended to kindly bring his daughter-in-law a box of farm-fresh eggs, but the daughter-in-law disdainfully overturned it in one swift motion, calling him a rural sanitation worker who was filthy from head to toe. Just then, his son, hearing the commotion, rushed over. But when he saw it was his father, not only did he refuse to let him in, he lashed out and tried to drive him away. The father had intended to tell his son the good news that he had won $1 billion, but the son thinks his father is giving him trouble here, so he's trying to get him out of here. Saying that, he slammed the door shut. He didn't know that the old sack the father had given him was already filled with cash. As soon as the young man entered the house, his wife immediately slapped him across the face, and blamed him for daring to bring his father to town. After all, they still need to borrow money to buy a house. All of this the father outside heard very clearly, so he went straight to the apartment complex his daughter-in-law had mentioned. Without a word, he bought the $100 million villa there. This instantly made the manager who had looked down on him break into a broad smile. The manager then went to prepare the property deed and arrange a welcome ceremony. Just then, the young man and his wife arrived at the complex to view the property. As soon as they walked in, his colleague said that a big client had come today, and had paid in full for villa number 1. He even warned him not to offend the big client. At that moment, the father suddenly saw his son. He stepped forward to tell him that he had bought the most expensive villa number 1. The daughter-in-law, however, looked down on him, worried that he might offend the big client, and urged him to leave immediately. When the man said he was there to pick up the property deed, and that the manager had already gone to the office to complete the paperwork for him, the daughter-in-law's father mocked him, saying that as a sanitation worker he probably couldn't even buy a single brick there. Besides, today was the day the manager's big client was closing the deal. If he offended the big client, he would be in big trouble. They still didn't know that the big client the manager mentioned was actually the man himself. Next, the daughter-in-law furiously scolded her husband, telling him to kick the man out immediately. Faced with his son's expulsion, the man said he had already purchased villa number 1 for his son, but no one believed that a janitor could afford such an expensive house. Seeing that he had no intention of leaving, the daughter-in-law continued to pressure her husband, saying that if his father offended the big client, she would divorce him then. The man saw that his daughter-in-law was not a kind woman, and urged his son to divorce her immediately. He added that now that he had money, more beautiful women would be willing to marry his son. To his surprise, his son thought he was talking nonsense, and slapped him hard across the face. Little did they know, by this time the manager had already prepared the property deed, yet the son still relentlessly hurled insults at his father. He retorted that his father had never given him a good life. He derided him as just a garbage collecting janitor. In his heart, he felt his father embarrassed him in front of his friends.